Okay, so I just finished a run and now I'm cooling down as I walk. This is Dan here from Vagabond Buddha, and I was just texting with a friend and had a delightful exchange, and it became present to self-identification, and it was a joyful moment, and it occurred to me that it was probably something I should share about being in the present moment versus being in your mind. I've had periods of time, and I don't really know how long it is, just because I've never tried to measure it, and it's not relevant to what I'm talking about now, but I'll just make up some numbers. But maybe an hour or two I've had where I've just been completely in the present moment. And it's not, the accuracy is not that important. It might only be 10 minutes. I don't really know. And what I mean by that is, while I'm in the present moment, eventually a thought floats by, often like these thoughts I want to share with you. A thought floats by, and if I'm really enjoying the present moment and it's a silly thought, did you make your car payment or something, it's not going to change the world for me in the middle of that walk or run or enjoyment of being in the present moment. I just let it float by. I don't grab onto it. I don't make a note of it. It just floats by. And in those moments when a thought occurs, there's a bit of a mind function, because the thought happens. In order to recognize the thought, there's a bit of a recall there. There's an observation of what the thought means. There's a decision about whether or not anything needs to be done. Is it an emergency? And there's a decision not to do anything, and then the thought floats away, and then you're back in the present moment. And so when I say I've been in the present moment, I can be in the present moment for a couple hours, I don't really know what that means. I don't know if that means that thoughts like that are going by every 10 seconds and I'm letting them go by, or I'm actually just present to being for the hour or two without having thoughts float by. And I don't know that that's the time period is that relevant, because right now what I want to talk about is I don't know if anyone else has completely lost their mind, but I certainly never have. And I am the same person as the day, as far back as I can remember. I can remember having the experience of being alive. And as I've said before, I was more mind identified. I would go from thought to thought without a break between thoughts for much of my life. I think till the moment that I became aware that I had a mind. I think which was around 1980 or 81, something like that. So most of my life I've been aware of the difference between being in the present moment and having a mind. And I consider who I am to be what's behind the mind, because it's kind of calm and peaceful, and often the mind's a little bit kind of self-centered, and these are mind constructs that I'm using to describe my mind. But it seems like it's like, how do I survive? What am I going to eat? I want to have sex. Oh, I forgot. It's very material centered. And being in the presence is more relaxing, spiritual, enjoying the feeling of having a heart beating and having trees, or living a life. The feeling of being in the present moment is more enjoyable. And so what I'm getting at is, some of the commentators on being in the present moment kind of hint at going away forever. Like your mind, once you find the present moment, your mind goes away. And yet that's never been true for me. It's always been nearby when I'm ready for it, or something important happens and plugs me back in. And honestly, I'll have to say, I don't know of a speaker on the subject, a modern day speaker who doesn't have a mind. You can tell by listening. Once you get that sense, you'll notice the difference when someone's in a mind space or in the present moment. So you'll easily, that'll be, fairly easily recognized. And so why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because there's a bit of fear, I think, in some people when they first hear about being in the present moment, and that's that they're gonna lose their family, lose their house, lose their job, whatever. They're not going to care about anything anymore, because once you find enlightenment and you find that extreme joy of being in the present moment, why would you get out of your chair? You just sit there and melt. And you hear a little bit of that in the, some of the speakers talking about going out for days, waking up, this sort of thing. And there's some of that, but I don't have any personal experience of that. And when you hear them speak, it's clear they do have a mind. That probably sounds odd to you. They do have a mind. How are they speaking without a mind? But those are distinctions you can't really know. You just experience them when you do. So I won't go into that. But it's this idea that you're going to be someone else when you figure out how to enjoy your life, or when you figure out how to be in the present moment. You're probably already enjoying your life, even if you're only mind identified, because you have a game you're running, and you're winning at the game. Probably you probably have a big job, or maybe not, whatever. You work at the 7-Eleven and you're making good money, and you have a nice car and a house and a place to live, so you're winning at life. But there's something that you're attracted to that's making you wonder about what the present moment is, and you're wondering if you can get there or not. And so one of the things your mind will tell you, because it likes being in charge and it's a little bit of a control freak, is, oh, don't listen to this stuff, you're going to go crazy and your life's going to change. And I don't really have any experience of that. I didn't really miss a beat at all in my life. It's true that once you understand that you have a mind and you're no longer your mind, that sometimes when your mind speaks or has a thought and you listen to what it's saying, you'll find it unpleasant in some regards. I mean, just criticizing people, or well, it just depends on whatever your mind's saying. If someone else was saying, if it was distasteful, it's a good chance that you're who you are would find that to be the case, because who you are is a little bit of everything, I think, in the universe. So it's a more worldly view, less self-centered, and so and really, it's not an opinion. It's just a listening. It just listens to the mind. It watches the mind, watches the world. It observes. It's more of a perception. And so the point of all this was to say that it's normal to have a mind and have the mind to be upset about the idea that you're going to begin to know you have it. It wants you to think that it is you, and that's how it continues to tell you. That's the way it holds you. It's telling you that everything's fine, you're unhappy now, but as soon as you change jobs and get rid of that boss, everything's going to be okay. It's fine, everything's okay. As soon as you change your spouse, then everything will be perfect. It's fine. This is what your mind tells you in order to use your life. It's using your life in a way that isn't so delightful, and it's trying to control everything in order to protect you. And what you'll find when you have a mind instead of be your mind is that protection is still there. Your mortgage will still get paid and whatnot. And whatever car you're driving, keep driving that car if you want. But you may, over time, it's true, when you begin to be self-realized, you may not need to upgrade from a Volvo to a Ferrari. You probably are still going to want to save for your retirement, and you're still going to want to put your kids through college, or whatever normal goals, but you won't be quite as drawn to providing external evidence as proof that you are a successful human being. That warmth comes from within, and so some of your decisions might be different. They'll be a little more practical, maybe, but not necessarily in an experiential sense. In other words, if you think it's crazy fun to jump out of airplanes and you love that, you're probably not going to give up that kind of thing. Maybe just you'll buy the adequate equipment to ski for your level. You won't be trying to buy the $1,000 gloves. And that's just because your priorities are just a little different in terms of what you value when you're not trying to prove anything. So in a general sense, your mind, you're still going to be you, and you're still going to be laugh at the same jokes, and the same thoughts are going to float by. The difference is you'll just know that you aren't the thought. You're having the thought, and when it's necessary, you'll jump on that thought and do that thing. And when it's just a thought that's nagging you, that you've already thought through carefully and you've made a decision, and normally you would ruminate on that for months or weeks, you will recognize the silliness that the mind's trying to perpetrate on you, and you'll relax, you'll breathe out, and let the thought float by. So in terms of people viewing you from the outside, if you're not mumbling present moment stuff, they're not really going to know much is difference, other than maybe you have tend to have more of a centered or smile on your face, possibly. And so I wouldn't give much thought to the idea that your mind is telling you that, oh, you can't do this, you're going to be one of those crazies running around trying to get all your friends to join a cult or whatever. I've probably spent most of my life, 20, 30 years of it, not even mentioning these concepts, just feeling them. And it's really just this year that I've decided to share it, and I just share it as Dan from Vagabond Buddha, because I have a normal professional career, and I'm not trying to change that. I'm just trying to communicate a way that I've found some joy in my life, and so I'm not running around to all my friends and trying to explain it to them. I'm not judging anyone who's doing that. I'm just pointing out that the conversation that your mind has about the reasons why you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't find joy in the present moment, I don't think there's any merit to any of it. And you don't know me, so you're going to be more apt to trust your mind. I just think it's worth a subject that's worth bringing up, because I remember having the thoughts about gurus and spiritualism and all that kind of nonsense when I was mind identified, and thinking it was just a bunch of losers who couldn't figure out how to succeed in the real world, and so they were coming up with spiritual nonsense to try to justify what I perceived as their failure. And I really didn't even know if any of them had any money or whatever, or they were successful in a conventional sense. Obviously, they were successful with their peers and what have you. But so all of the nonsense that your mind comes up with, none of that really implies in the Western world. If you put on normal shirt and shoes and pants and go to work in the morning and you feel beautiful inside, no one's going to know. It can be your little secret. Or if you want to help others, you can do that too. But it doesn't have to change. Your life is not going to change unless you want it to, and you're not going to be brainwashed. So anyway, I thought I would share some of the nonsense that ran around in my mind when I when I think about how the present moment is perceived by a modern day Westerner. Okay, not my usual conversation, but the thought came, I shared. This is Dan from Vagabond Buddha.